don't be fooled by the name of this video. This mini lesson has very little to do with happiness or positivity. In Infinite Prosperity, I teach my students a very specific mindset that is required for them to make money in the financial markets. And I know for a fact that in different businesses and sporting endeavors and relationships, various mindsets are required, differing mindsets, in order to thrive in those areas and in those niches. This video isn't about that. In this mini lesson, I'm going to be talking about macro mindset. I'm going to be talking about a very specific mental framework that I use to process all the information that comes in and out of my mind and all the events that happen to me in my life. I call it the Lewis Mocker mindset, and to be fair, I could spend probably a full day talking about this, explaining this with bloody diagrams. I'm going to try and do this in less than 10 minutes. So the first step is to realize that there is a universal law of balance that acts on everything in nature and acts on every event that happens to us, whether we realize it or not. For example, we have night and day, we have hot and cold, we have north and south poles of a magnet, we have happiness and sadness. Everything is balanced, everything has an equal and opposing force somewhere. Interestingly, none of the poles can exist without their opposite. Take night and day, for example. If you remove night, if night was never a thing, then day wouldn't really exist. We would have sun and we would have the day and we would have the light, but there wouldn't be that contrast of day and night, so we wouldn't label it day, it would just be what is. Things are only ever given their power by their opposite. Happiness doesn't exist without sadness. So many people in society are chasing these one-sided fantasies. They're chasing the magnet with only a north pole without realizing that it doesn't exist. When there's a north pole of a magnet, there's a south pole of the magnet. If there was no such thing as sadness, the yardstick wouldn't exist to measure our happiness. The search for that which is unattainable will be the biggest frustration of your entire existence. Seeking happiness and thinking that it won't come without sadness is a fantasy. It doesn't exist. It will not happen. Seeking pleasures without pain, seeking rewards without risks, it will not happen. It's a fantasy. And the quicker we can get off this wavelength of trying to seek pleasures without pains or supports without challenges, the quicker we can get on with the show and realize that we live in a balanced world and we should be going after balanced goals. So we kind of go through life like this, and then every now and then something good will happen. We'll have a pleasure, we'll have a win, we'll find some support. And then during another time of our life, something bad will happen, or at least something we perceive to be bad will happen. The real wisdom of living in balance is realizing that for every pain we attract into our life, there will be a corresponding pleasure of equal and opposite value. And for every pleasure we attract into our life, there will be a pain of equal and opposite value. And when we can acknowledge both sides of the picture, we'll live in harmony, we'll live in balance, we'll live neutrally, and we'll live with gratitude and love. It doesn't matter how bad you got ripped off or screwed over or cheated on or abused or anything. There was a benefit that came from that. And as soon as people can stop being victims and realize that and change their perceptions up to see the benefit and identify the benefit, their lives are transformed. They're free. They're free to not hold on to the bondage of the bad experiences of their past. And so many times I see this in society, people are holding on to grudges from the past or these bad events, they think these bad things happen to them. And really it's only until you see the extreme cases being neutralized where you really understand the power of this universal balance. When you can see rape victims neutralize their resentment and their bitterness and their anger and their rage toward the perpetrator, that's a powerful moment, because you know that if they can neutralize that, you can neutralize your issues. And it's not until you see victims of having their family murdered in front of them, or victims of the Holocaust, survivors of the Holocaust, who have been through these processes and neutralized their resentment and their bitterness and their anger, and they've been able to love again, and the rape victims have been able to go on and love and have constructive, positive, flourishing relationships. It's not really until you see that where you realize the power of the universal balance. The balance is there. It doesn't matter what your pain is, what your gripe is with the past, or who did wrong by you. There is a balance. There was a reason it happened, and there is an offsetting positive. There's an offsetting amount of support. There is an offsetting lesson that you learned from that experience to offset that pain. So when I talk about the Lewis Mocker mindset, I'm really talking about a mental framework by which when good things happen to me, I'm always humbling enough to realize that that good thing will not just last without some kind of offset. It will attract into my life some kind of pain or price or cost or financial reimbursement that I have to pay to realize that pleasure, to make it right, to bring me back to neutral. And at the same time, for every challenge that I attract into my life, for every pain that I face, for every loss that I take, I realize that that won't happen without some kind of positive offset. It will neutralize, and so the pains of the future, e.g. fears, no longer have a grip on you. They no longer have a grip on me because I know that it will be offset. I know that it will be offset with 100% certainty because I've seen the power of universal balance play out over many years. And just because I have this method of dealing with future problems and future challenges that could arise and dealing with future fears doesn't mean that I'm fearless. I'm not fearless. No one's fearless. Fear serves us. We need fear. If we didn't have fear, I'd be going and running out on bloody the highway and not worrying about getting hit by a truck, or I'd be going into the bloody desert and fighting bloody snakes. We're not honey badgers.
Now watch this. Look, a snake's up in the tree. Honey badger don't care. Honey badger don't give a shit. It just takes what it wants.
I was cheated on once by a girl that I was seeing, and I was absolutely devastated. It wasn't until years and years later that I realized that incident, that event, served me more than any other event in my life at the time. It paved the way for my life as I know it now, and if that didn't happen, I may not be here doing what I'm doing. So having neutralized that immense pain that I felt from that time of my life, with the enormous positives that came from it, in hindsight, I have absolutely 100% gratitude for that whole entire event taking place. So the pain of being cheated on the past, boom, gone, neutralized. There's no pain there, there's no resentment, there's no bitterness, there's no jealousy. It's just gone. I'm grateful, legitimately, authentically grateful for it happening. Because if it didn't happen, I probably wouldn't be here where I am now, and I'm very grateful for where I am now. So when you can learn to understand universal balance and know that everything that you attract into your life will come with balance, and you can play that out and be grateful for all the events and the people and the circumstances and the challenges and the support that come into your life, then and only then can you move on to stage 2. And this is when we flip the picture. This is when the horizontal axis becomes time, and as you learn to embrace universal balance for all the events that are attracted into your life, you'll learn to do it faster and faster and faster. And you'll come to realize that the y-axis on this triangle is in fact wisdom. One of the very oldest definitions of wisdom is the speed at which it takes someone to identify a blessing within a challenge or a challenge within a blessing. And the instantaneous realization of that, some cultures call enlightenment. By the way, just because I can do this fancy diagram and explain these kinds of things does not mean I'm enlightened. I'm definitely not. In fact, today I had a very big challenge regarding this hotel room, and it took me near on an hour to find the balancing opposite force, to find the gift, to find the blessing. But that's what the Lewis Mocker mindset is about. It's not about being enlightened. I'm not enlightened, and I don't know any human being who is, personally. I'm sure there is some. But what this particular mindset has allowed me to do in my life is to live with more love and more gratitude. Whenever I face a challenging thing in my environment, whenever I track some kind of challenging circumstance, instead of whinging and bitching and complaining, which I do for a short period of time, depending on how big the challenge is, I start to look. Where is the blessing? Where is it? What's the lesson here? Where's the pleasure that I'm about to receive? And in looking for that, in knowing that it's coming, for one, and then 2, going out and looking for it, you find it. And the more I do it, the more aware I become, the more wise I become, the quicker I find it. And in having this ability and having this understanding and knowing this, I cannot possibly look into the future and be worried or afraid or fearful of things that might happen, because I know for a fact that for every challenge, for everything that comes up in my life that I perceive to be bad, it will be offset. It will be offset with an equal reward or a pleasure or a support. And for every support and reward and profit that I make, I know that it will not come, and I'm not living in an illusion, in a fantasy that it will come without work, without risk, without challenge, without pain, without struggle. Everything is balanced. Everything in my life is balanced. And when I can balance a challenge that comes up, I had a challenge today. When I can balance a challenge that comes up with a lesson that I can be grateful for, that I can understand, I see why that happened. That happened for a very bloody special reason. thank you that that challenge come into my life. I can now transcend that challenge. I can neutralize it. I can be grateful. I can offset the reward with the pain. Boom, gone. I'm grateful for it happening in the first place. Then I'm vibrating on love. Then I move on to the next challenge. I'm promoted to the next challenge. People are still vibrating on this resentment, bitter energy from someone in their past 10, 50, 40 friggin' years ago, of someone who wronged them, who cheated on them, who ripped them off, without ever becoming grateful that that particular challenge, that particular pain that happened to them in the past came with a very, very, very important blessing. It came for a very, very, very important reason. And as soon as they can offset that pain with the pleasure, boom, neutralized. All they can feel is gratitude and love. That's it. So the question is, Lewis, if this is so powerful, if this is so important, if it's made such big difference and influence on your life, why does no one know about it? Why aren't we taught it? Why aren't we told it? That's a bloody good question. My answer to which would be, if you can neutralize all of your past events and eliminate all the baggage of your past, and it's possible, you have nothing left but love and gratitude. There's no bitterness, there's no resentments, there's no judgments of the things in a negative way. It's just love and gratitude. And so if we go to the very top of the thing here, you can see, once you're at the point of what many cultures call enlightenment, an instantaneous realization that good with bad and bad with good is all one thing packaged together, that is the vibration of our entire soul, of our entire existence. And I talk about the soul in terms of a state of unconditional love as an acronym. This whole entire lesson then, it more than just a mindset or a mental framework or a way of thinking, it actually becomes quite a significant and quite a powerful spiritual teaching. And so the reason that we haven't heard of this stuff is, where are we getting our spiritual knowledge from? The masses are getting it from church, they're getting it from their religions, and in my opinion, the institutions of religion, it's not in their best interest to teach their followers this stuff. To teach them the stuff that can actually liberate them from fears, from greed, from pains, from pleasures, and neutralize them and bring them back to a state of gratitude and a state of love, it's not in their interest, it's not in their agenda to do that. They just want you to keep showing up on a Sunday, don't f anyone before marriage, pay 10% of your income, and live with a mild but persistent fear that if you don't subordinate to their authority, you might just go to hell and burn for the rest of your days after you die. Anyway, that's it. I mean, like I said before, I could literally go on for days and days and days about this kind of stuff. The ground's shaking. And I've got so many more experiences to draw from it and things to share, and really crazy tips and tricks and hacks to allow you to really employ these principles, to look for balance and employ balance to bring you back to neutral, to bring you back to a state of love and gratitude. It makes the biggest difference in your life, more than any other thing that I've ever learned about friggin' money or relationships or attracting girls or buying cars and all this stuff. This makes the biggest difference, full stop. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to learn it so young, but I want to share this, I want to pay this forward, and I want to make a specific shout out to where I learned the majority of this information from. Dr. John DeMartini. He's an absolute gun. He's my #1 mentor in the whole of the world right now. If anyone can read all of his books and attend all of his courses, do it. This year and next year, Robin and I are going to fly around the world to go and attend more of his conferences, because even just in 2 days, he changed my life probably more than anyone else. He's an absolute genius. Go see him.
Get away from me, says the snake. Get away from me. Honey Badger don't care. Honey Badger smacks the shit out of it. And the snake comes back and it lashes right at the Honey Badger.